Okei, nistunako ka ninäpiiksi. Nuksee sikohkutoki annum naapjuis ni tammukja. Nakko iinaksiipuis. Ok ni taaksiipui kistunnon siksi käitstäpi ja päitstäpi käänau taaksuas. Ok aatimiistaki sannoi itkunäpst sineipi. Ok raksi nakksi iiskikä iitapiit sinnik aamuksen uhkaa niitä ookinotoiksi. Niitsitapin kanssa ninäpiiksi. Saakki tsiipummuuk. Good morning. My name is Mike Bruised Head, as the English name given to all of us through a colonial process. Indian agents didn't want any more Blackfoot names to be registered, so everything was put into English. My Blackfoot name is Chief Bird, a name that was given to me through a naming ceremony by the late Laurie Plum, who was the oldest at that time the Blood Reserve in the 70s and 80s. Today I want to, expand on the narrative on when we say traditional Blackfoot territory and bring that into light. I look at the drawings here of the mountains, Niitsitapi, and all the mountains that follow. And then it just so happened the name Thomas Blakeston. If I could allude to Thomas Blakeston, who was commissioned after he was working for the Palliser Triangle Expedition, John Palliser. He was commissioned by then Prime Minister A.J. MacDonald to find a path through the mountains to reach the Pacific Ocean for the train. It was a train race between CP Rail and the Northern Railroad for the United States. It's almost like the two countries kept an eye on each other. And so Thomas Blakeston literally got lost, and this is all documented. And came out of the trees on the other side of the mountain, what is now known Whitefish, Kalispell, Montana area, and came back and supposedly had a Cree guide. Well, I kind of thought, without being too derogatory, no wonder he got lost. And he didn't have a Blackfoot guide. And so he came back, and I see a replica of the mountains here. I am undertaking, hopefully, to give, as a starter, looking at those mountain peaks, possibly 26, depending on the length and the range of Miistakists mountains in Paktumksikime. Paktumksikime meaning a lake created by water and ice between two layers of mountains. And now we know it as Sir Charles Waterton. And thanks to Thomas Blakeston, who has a picture of him. Going back to Thomas Blakeston, in 1858, after he came through either Sage Pass or South Kootenai Pass in the present-day Waterton Lakes National Park, he opened and started the domino effect of colonial imperialism by naming a mountain after him. And it's still in the map, Mount Blakeston, a creek, Blakeston Creek, waterfalls, Blakeston Falls, and Blakeston Valley. And so as Thomas Blakeston in the present-day Red Rock Road came out of the mountains, he saw thousands of the buffalo. What is now presently Twin Butte, Mountain View area, right in that area. he saw thousands of buffaloes. And so as he went south, that was the first time he saw the lakes. And he thought he would do a good deed for his friend Sir Charles Waterton. They were both members of the Britain, or the Geographical Society of Great Britain. And that's where they got to know each other. So Thomas Blakeston, after giving himself the names of these geographic points, he then bestowed the name of Baktumksikimi and gave the name to Waterton after his friend Sir Charles Waterton. In 1994, I started this journey looking at the mural here that has Chief Mountain. As I was sitting by Chief Mountain, I asked the old man, Niitsitapi. In Blackfoot, Chief Mountain, Niitsitapi. Okay, omkina. Muksikitstapi mix chan stawaiksa. Chan stawaiksa. No tapi kita oksi sa kaits tapi chika svi muksa ksiksu kaaks Miistakists. Kinistun na mo tapokse okkanaya chika svi. I talked to the mountain as if it was a person. The mountains have spirit in Blackfoot. We consider them animate. That's why we fast there. That's why we pray there. I asked Niitsitapi, Chief Mountain, your relatives, all these mountains, what happened to their names? Why do they have foreign names of people we don't know? And yet you kept your name, Niitsitapi. And yet on this side of your relatives, in Glacier Park, was in Miistakists, sa kyokhna inchka to pikako, sa kyokhna inchka sumi. Muksam sky pikani, manstuni, pa 6 tapi. The Glacier Park had Blackfeet, Blackfoot names. And on this side are gone. A sad time. An encroachment of our history. And today it's 2020. And that might be my life journey till I get very old, to rightfully give back. And that's just the starters, those mountains in Waterton National Park, their rightful names. I have found 18 names, and I have to match them. Very old names. And I have found out 2 names of Mount Blakeston before Thomas Blakeston imposed his name. And mind you, we hadn't signed a treaty in 1858. In fact, the Lame Bull Treaty of 1855 gives us the right to hunt in all the mountains, over the mountains, and the Lame Bull Treaty actually expresses that. And so I don't know if the Prime Minister of the day, A.J. McDonnell, in his own way, wanted to change that and downplay Lame Bull Treaty of 1855. And that treaty was the council of the day, the chiefs met at the confluence of Judith River and Missouri, or Yellow River. And that is presently not too far from Fort Benton, Montana. That gave us a right to travel, to live and hunt. With Euro education, we're put into units. How education is from the thought. We always have to be placed in this compartment. So as Blackfoot people, Blackfeet, we're put on as plains people. But we're more than that. We are mountain people. We are mountain people because we traveled over the mountains. We even have our last names that give significance to traveling across the mountains. We even have animal spirit names of animals in the mountains. And so when Blakeston started this map surveying, those names have distorted history. And to me, all I want to do is provide history, not only for the Blackfoot people, but for everybody in this world. That way they're given a non-colonial interpretation of our history. And so Mount Blakeston, the highest peak in present-day Waterton National Park, I found out two names, Pinakuyim, tsak Pinakuyistakko, or Pipestone, Akoinima Istakko. Pipestone Mountain or Seen from Afar Mountain. And like days like this, if it's a little bit clearer and you're further east, that's the first mountain you will see in the horizon. Niitsitapi Pinako, you see it from afar. And then Blakeston Valley, Red Squirrel Valley in our language. Red Rock Canyon, Red Ochre Waterfall. And so about a month ago, maybe a little bit more, I rode on horseback from the present day Red Rock Canyon. And we said a prayer and we mounted up. 5 of us, my brother, his son, my nephew, and one of the riding guides from the stables and a park official. And I went through the path that leads to Twin Lakes. I wanted to get as close to as I can get to Sage Pass that goes over into the mountains. And so we took that trek. We finally got to the upper Twin Lake. And I have my camera and I did my own self-documentary. And I talked about the latest findings plus the story. Science does not have a story. It's just science. Archaeology does not have a story. They could find everything and then assume and provide their own interpretation. We have never been consulted as Blackfoot people, as our homeland, to come and ask us, even way back, Thomas Blakeston, to ask the Blackfoots, what are the names of these mountains? His imperialistic thought, and a member of the Royal Geographical Society, he self-imposed his name with no consultation. And that is kind of demeaning. I thought about this, and it's like me going into a non-native family of a couple, European couple, and I change all their kids' names to what I think should be. That would be most disrespectful. And so in 1858, this name changing started, and I keep looking at the mountains, the water systems, the name, this layout of the mountains. All these mountains had names in our language. Some of the archaeological diggings in that area and over here, possibly 10,000 years and more. And we're not the only people, as Blackfoot people, we don't buy into the migration theory of the Barinja theory. We don't. We have our own creation stories. Nistun nog sista pipata piispinna. Sipata piobnitkukkinna. The creation stories from our Creator. And then another thing that kind of, if you go to the park maps, you will see all English names. I don't know these people at all. It's like in this place, I don't know most of these people. And to me, I'll be so bold. In modern times, I want to be up there. I want to be up there as Niitsitapi. It's superficial when people say, we are in the traditional lands of the Blackfoot. Sounds good, but it needs to be deeper. It's like a preamble page to a textbook, and you read that and you go to the first chapter. It's starting to sound meaningless. It's starting to sound empty. And today, that is what I want. These coulees, the river bottom, yeah, let's be bilingual for those people that oppose another language. The privileged thinking. I want Blackfoot names. And I just was involved in a meeting not too long ago. These coulees, just for starters, because nobody's moving on it. I want one of these coulees going down to be called Niitsitapi coulee, Chief Bird Coulee. And why I'm doing that, because everybody's kind of like in a stalemate. I will break that stalemate. And yet I'm not breaking no laws. Maybe I might break some political, moral issues and thoughts of the imposition of other names. And so the last Indian battle here, the stories upon stories. We've been here for a long, long time. Archaeologists today are starting to respect. We find all the artifacts, but we don't have the story. Previous archaeologists found this and literally said, a woman sat there, I think a young boy sat here, that's where the elder sat here. It's like, what? How do you know? And then those are published material. The publishers don't ask questions. And that kind of material becomes gospel with inaccuracies. Only reason I'm doing my PhD, and I'm last year, I'm doing it from the eyes of a from my eyes as a Blackfoot person, and not necessarily applying the theoretical narratives, approaches to my study. I'm a Kanakwan. And if they don't pass me, I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely okay with that because I will take my work and my own self-production of my videos on my camera to my people. And if they shake their head, I didn't do a good job. If they nod their head, I'd rather be judged by my own peers. The stories I'm telling, how can pure academians, and I'm not telling everybody to ride through the mountains, when they've never walked or ridden a horse through the mountains to Twin Lakes. I did that. I saw the burnt trees. I saw one valley that the trees weren't burnt. I saw the eagle, and I sang a song going down that path. I sang an honor song to Iskochtannaka, hey, Patumatapila, hey, yo people, and I sang a song. And I got interviewed. I helped camera, myself, documentary. We saw a shadow of an eagle on the upper Twin Lake, and yet we couldn't see the eagle. And it was about close to noon. I kept looking up this way to the sun and the trees, and there's the lake, and there's Kashina Mountain, whatever that name is. And right there is the so-called Continental Divide. And Sage Pass, we drove by it. We're going to ride up there by means tying our horses and walking up. A little bit muddy. Figured out I'll do it another time. So I set the story. 3 hours to get on horseback to Upper Twin Lake. And I talked about the thousands of years, that road, that little trail, I should say, that we just rode on. Switchbacks, Twin Lakes, and Sage Pass. Of our people that use this to go get hunting, medicines, sweet pine, whatever they need. They were aware of that mountain. They were aware of that crossing the Continental Divide. And so the author whom escapes my mind, the Great North Trail, the North Trail, he got the idea from Blackfoots and other people, traditional people along. And so during the interview, I actually said, how can somebody process, I'm standing here, I'm talking Blackfoot, how can non-Blackfoot academians tell me your work does not qualify for a thesis? I am not the library type. I am the on-hands. As our traditional people, we are real learners. We see, we touch, we feel. And so that's why I did this. I've been wanting to do it for 30, 40 years, to ride this trail. And I can talk about it. Same way, the academians, I don't know if their next home is a library. I'm not calling down libraries, they're good. They serve a purpose. But when it's so real, and you learn from the book, and I've been through there, I can literally talk about the sweet smell of the trees and the sweet pine and the plants and the water and the air, and literally taste the air. You'll not get that in a book. And even someone described it, the reader may not even absorb it. And so it took us from Red Rock Canyon 3 hours. Then we came back, and that's the highest I ever rode a saddle horse, on part of the ridge of Mount Bowerman. And that's the highest I've ever ridden a horse in my life. And as we came down Mount Bowerman into the next flat, and then we climbed a bit more to South Kootenai Pass, we had our own names. It seems though in European thought, regardless who lives there, we always want our ego to persevere and name something after us or somebody. You know, this gratification of putting a stamp and disregarding whatever's in place. Well, that colonial thought is going to go out the door. And I'm not the only one, but I'll start the process to correct history for the betterment of our wisdom and knowledge of Native children, non-Native children, my grandchildren, and everybody else's grandchildren, to be given that proper history and storytelling. And so as we came down, we passed, rode by, and again, this little state, and I was thinking, gee, this is really something. 2 passes, my ancestors, possibly 10,000 years or more, walked on these paths. They literally walked on it. And I experienced something with my eyes when I saw people that weren't there and horse riders that weren't there. I didn't say nothing. I just kept praying. As we came down through Blakeston Valley, it saddens me that I have to call something that after some culture I don't really know, imposed on me, names, rather than our very proud, strong, and significant history. And so we came back past Blakeston Falls. Ohke enopskunakas. That's how we describe water coming down. Oh, enopskunakas. We got off our horses and 7.5 hours, almost, could be 28.9 to almost 30-kilometer ride. I did that. And academic scholars are going to judge me. Some have never touched a horse. Some have never walked a trail. Some are almost scared of being outdoors. Academians. And they're the ones that are going to be the gatekeepers if my written work is going to be acceptable. And it doesn't really matter if they don't accept it. In fact, I will be proud if they don't accept it, because that's my whole point. If they accept it, then they'll be my long life friends. And if they don't, that's okay. Because ni mata aksapis ska takspa. Nitsi kanai kwan. No, tapi kutsis kohti nistapimix. Supukits tapi kwan. I am not English. I am not European. Yes, I may speak English, and I may speak that eloquent English talk, but I also speak Old Blackfoot. My generation is kind of last very fluent speakers. And I come from an ancestors of some that never spoke English. In fact, it's the other way around. Through sign language and a little bit of greeting, we're able to speak. My ancestors were able to speak Kootenai, Sioux, Crow, Cree, other Blackfoot languages, or not Blackfoot, native languages, indigenous languages. And so now as I came out of the mountains driving through the valley, it's like I was floating. 5 things happened to me. And I'm glad we prayed, we put tobacco. And I thought in this modern world, September 2020, the presence I felt, and the 2 non-native guides, they experienced something. They've been through there, but they never experienced until a native, a Blackfoot, a Kayanek, when a Miistakists rode with them. They have become my friends. And so the energy of mountain in relations to the land and the water, about a week ago, a little bit over a week ago, I didn't get to see and stand on top of the Continental Divide, and I'm going to do that. I dreamt about, on the other side, there was two identical looking peaks. I dreamt about it, that I was looking there. What a magnificent view that my ancestors must have just took it all in, standing on top of the mountains. Just looking. Must have been amazing. If I think making up the Upper Twin Lake was amazing, I bet you that was more amazing. Anyways, I eventually had supper with the two ladies, and I told them this dream. Their eyes went big. And I told them, I had a dream about these two mountains on the other side of the divide. And they said, there are two mountains like that. There are two mountains like that. And their eyes went big. And I thought, wow. That is the relationship I have as Blackfoot people. We're not superficial people. We're not. And so I told them, in our way, if I dream 4 times about that mountain, those peaks, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to bring my pipe and pray there. For whatever reason, if I dream it 4 times, those two mountains, and I could still envision my dream, how the tops look standing there in so-called British Columbia. Maybe I have a relative there. I don't know. Maybe an old person there. I don't know. And they said, yes, we've gone through there. We've rode down that way. We've hiked down there. And there's two mountains like that of all that look identical. Sure, I'm amazed. But I am happy that I am still connected to land. And everything that goes with land. It's not even superficial. It's not even fake. And a lot of Eurocentric thinkers will never understand that. And probably, I'd be surprised if there's an academic institution of higher learning actually understands when I say energy from Miistakists. And so I wanted to kind of talk about the foothills and the lands here, looking at the maps. These are human-made towns. But the coulees and the rivers are not human-made. And the lakes and the hills. Those should be given their rightful Blackfoot names. The Euro communities, whatever. We have provided names for those settlements, but it's kind of like a modern version of the name. Because before the town was built, some of those little springs, coulees, waterways, they had names. And I wish these were documented in 1900. All the elders that knew this, all these place names, especially in Blackfoot territory, are all gone. And in their absence, I'm just trying to link the history of this land that we have settled traveled, hunted for thousands of years. And people get offended when we say, this is our traditional territory. They do protests. They swear at Blackfoot people and other indigenous people. They call them names. And I'm not going to say that's okay, but I start wondering, they're so angry of hearing the truth. They're so upset because their mind's set from their pioneer great-grandfathers. Grandfather said this about the Indians. And some of these young non-native people are asking questions that are, well, how did Grandpa know? Oh, he knows everything. Did Grandpa know any Indians? No, he didn't. So how did Grandpa know Indians? Oh, he knows everything. How did Grandma? They're starting to do a self-inquiry, which is good, which is excellent. And I see a lot of, not a lot, too many, but more should be, but there's a new breed of thought. And that's why I'm saying, for those young non-native scholars, workers, employees, want to get the true story. They're asking for it. And that's is all I'm providing. As much as I can. And that is why I'm boldly saying, I'm starting this, and I'm not the only one. Elders from the past tried to put that. They tried to give the correction, the accuracy. And so, in more modern time, 2020, 80 years, 2020 is not modern. And that's why I say I like to see my picture up here. I'm boldly saying that. And it's not that I'm sticking my neck out, but I want history from us to be properly documented, translated, and transcended into the knowledge circles of everybody. Because we're doing injustice, native grandchildren, non-native grandchildren, and there's history, and it's distorted, it's not even what it is, to correct it. And I think then we will live a lot better rather than the very racial overtones. And those people that are very racist have never even opened their own books. It's a sense of denial. Well, why are you denying history that's 10,000 years old? And so I have talked to archaeologists, historians, and they're probably, when I leave their office, their heads are probably spinning, because I've come to know English. The English language, and I'm going to use it back on so-called famous and educated and knowledgeable non-Blackfoot people. I'm going to use their language back on them, but then I'm also going to provide the Blackfoot thought. And like I say, this might be my rest of my lifelong journey, but somebody has to do it. And get this, I don't need no permission from council members. I don't need no permission from chief and council. I don't need a band council resolution. I don't even need a mayor and city council approval. I don't even need the university and college president's approval. I'm using my absolute sovereignty in researching this. my right as a human being and as a Blackfoot person. I don't need no government approval. None whatsoever. I am doing this because I'm from here. And that is all the right I need. I'm from here. My ancestors from here. And so I will slowly wind down. I have gone pretty deep, but it needs to be said. And in this city, I want more Blackfoot signage, more Blackfoot history, more Blackfoot names of the coulees, more Blackfoot everything. And it could be a bilingual city because other people are going to say, who do they think they are? Them Indians. And I'm going to respond, I think I'm a very extremely important person because my ancestors were from here. I am far more important than you will ever be. Swallow that. You have no history here, other than a few decades. Mine goes thousands of years, and you will never beat me. Never outdo me. Never take that away. And so I want K4, Head Start, whether it's coloring books, novels, film, to supplement what I'm saying. You know, and I keep looking at the mountains. Wow, quite the setting here. And if you were to take out a handbook, you'll see all the English names. This side, and then you'll see some of the Blackfeet names on that side. In this corner of Canada, called Waterton Lakes, the most non-First Nation signage. And yet, if you visit other national parks and you Google them, some parks are even in the language of that First Nations. A whole bunch of signings in their interpretive centers all across Canada, except this corner in southern Alberta. And why is that? And I could go on another spin on that, but just to shorten it, that was just absolutely to discredit us over land and resources. We never gave that land away. It was forced from us. And I'm tired of being a foreign visitor to the mountains of my homeland. I'm tired of that. And I want a sign there that says, Blackfoot greeting, where they have welcome to Waterton. And I don't know if the world will crack. I doubt it. But how come these other places? And in my studies, I'm starting to be off track here of the political rationale that undermined our history on purpose. And if I could just say a sort of a little testimonial, I was at the lookout point as you come through Twin Butte, the kind of S, and you see the mountains and it goes back down. I was taking pictures there some years ago, and I saw this lady coming up the hill on her bike. I envied her because her muscle legs are bigger than mine. She was in shape. I was like, wow. She pulled in, and I was minding my own affairs. She came, are you from here? Yes. Geez, where did you bike from? Well, I started in Denver, and I went to Yukon and Alaska and back. On your bike? Yes. Whoa. Geez, I probably ride a horse, but I don't know about a bike, you know. And she said, I've been reading up on this. This is Waterton, isn't it? Yes. We're at Waterton. And at that time, it was from some European. And he said, oh, geez, it's such a shame. Where's the Blackfoot names in these mountains? This was a non-native woman. It's such a shame. And I said, yes, I know. Such a shame. He said, I find Native Americans and Native people, their names have such a strong significance. And I said, yes, I know. And that was about 4 or 5 years ago, and I said, I'm going to correct that. Do it, my son. All of a sudden I had a white mother. Do it, my son. Oh, okay. And she rode away. I don't know how many outside visitors I've talked to, driving through Waterton, going up there or something. Is there any native things to see here? This whole thing is native. How come there's no signage? There's the park station over there. Ask them. Geez, why are they so mean? I don't know. I guess they're born mean. I don't know. So this is so apartheid. Oh, okay. Another word. All right. Yeah, I guess it is. So it's not only me, but visitors and even other native people. Geez, on Queen Charlotte, Haida Gwe, our language, all our totem poles are honored. The Miigwech, Maidalen, all their petroglyphs and history of the Mi'kmaq people, the Maliseet, Southern Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Northwest Territories in Dene language. And yet here. And people can read up on it. I'm not just trying to stir the pot. No. There's something jumping out, but people have refused to look at it. Well, I've looked at it, and I call it very colonial racist. Very white privilege thinking of the governor of the day. And I'll end off on this comment. A.J. McDonald instructed Thomas Blakeston, get the savages out of the mountains. I didn't write that. It's written. Well, they got us out of the mountains, but we sure aren't savages. Who are the savages? The political savages. The government savages. And so I will end that because that's only first part of 100 chapter. Imagine doing all different stories, and that's why I started documenting myself. I've got about 12, 20-minute versions, all about the mountains, different perspectives. And I've been looking for somebody to help me put it together professionally, and then do the written version. And I said a lot of Blackfoot. So tsikutaxi the can kitzistuaksai. Kakto tistapi ukto to tistapi tsipa nistunnan. Nok tistapi patapi spinnan. O naka mano to pamo napi kan itkono exista pi puktomia. Isto ito mata po tokotse ito mata pinchikatomia isto. Kak statskas. Isto makutse itama makutstatans. I'm just trying to change history on the predominantly male ego of people from across the ocean that gave themselves names of everything for their own ego. And in my studies, probably predominantly the lakes were given to women. Very few mountain names after women. And if it's a woman name, then it's a derogatory name. Squaw Valley, Squaw Mountain. Other than that, the male chauvinism, the chivalry, British. And that's what Europeans think of their women. In Blackfoot, we hold our grandmothers way up there. I hold my daughters way up there. My sisters and my mother and my grandmother, but my mother way up there. They're not just subjects. And that's another big thing. So now maybe everybody will study mountains and look at the names. Hardly any females, if there are at all. And the mountain men took the mountain tops as their church steeples, thinking that they'll be the only one going to wherever their heaven is. And the women weren't. I don't know what the thinking is there. And so that's why the steeples. I will name this place after me, that way I'll get to the doors of heaven. Oh, I kind of don't understand that because my belief system is different. So I thank you for listening to me. I hope all of you will take a little piece of this journey I'm on and even provide in your own exercise and your own journeys to find accurate history for the betterment of knowledge for your children, grandchildren.